Hello, everybody. It's Stu Smith and Jeff Nichols here, Tactical Fitness Report, and we are going to talk about today something a little different than we normally talk about. We normally talk about focusing on, your training and getting to and through the training of your selection programs, getting through buds. But today, we're going to do just the opposite. We're going to talk about what happens if you quit, right? Not only the logistics of the leaving buds compound and where do you go next, but also maybe even a little bit of the mental side of it, what can happen to you. So, I want to start this out by this. Yeah, I want to start it off like this. I'm sorry?
I said this is a bit of an interesting journey for us because so some of you might think, and it's like, well, Jeff and Stu, you guys didn't quit. True. However, you're very aware of that process because some of the guys you may befriend early on in buds, especially pre-buds, like one of the guys probably at the onset of buds, one of my closest friends quit on the first Friday, and his dad was a Commodore.
Oh,
yeah. And that was a whole lot. Maybe that's a story worth telling. That's a story I'll tell. But I'm just saying he is a good person. And I know he's successful after the fact. So this is not a doom and gloom episode, but it's a side that's, well, like Stu said, we just haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah, and I don't think many understand too. I mean, because here's what happened. You signed up to join the Navy 4 years, typically. And you're going to serve the Navy 4 years. The only time I've ever seen guys not make it through buds and get out of the Navy is if they are injured, severe enough to where the Navy can't use them. And just saw that recently. We had a guy that, played college football, hurt his back bad enough to where he needed surgery, and he was given the opportunity to get out of the Navy. So, I mean, there are things like that happens that are out of your control. And then there's quitting. And I will say this, as a officer, I knew where I was going to go if I quit buds. I mean, there was no other choice really for me, and it was to go to the surface fleet and learn how to drive a big ship, around the world, which, by the way, I don't want to knock that because that is the Navy. And, many people have some great careers in the surface fleet. In fact, I wanted to share this one with you is that one of my buds classmates quit during drown proofing. Only knew him for like a month, but he's a good guy. Nice guy, probably didn't prepare like he probably should have, for buds, and he got to drown proofing and just kind of fell apart. But I will say this, other day I was looking on the Admiral list because now all my classmates are at that age where they're getting, their Rear Admiral select notifications. And sure enough, that guy who quit buds stayed in the Navy, was a surface officer, and now he's a Rear Admiral in the surface fleet. He's got a nice little family, still friends with him on Facebook. And I tell you, I mean, it's not the end of the world. Most of these guys that show up at buds, are really squared away people, and they're very motivated. And you can take that same motivation and move on with your life, So how about you, Jeff?
Yeah, and again, there's a million stories. And I think one thing where I'll say, and Stu can say, that we see the other side, not just from your classmates that may quit, but you'll have guys in your buds class that have previously quit, and you look at them and go, man, how could this ever quit? He's just crushing it. And they do. And a lot of those recyclers will make it through. Some won't, but they tended to. And so those guys, like there was a guy in my buds class that was an E5. He had quit 2 or 3 years previously, had come in, and he was the one that was saying, hey, if you quit, you're going to be doing this, this, and this. And we're just like, nope, not for me. But that was for me. I was just like, okay, that's all I need is to hear those sort of stories as a further reason to stay. Now, on the other side, with again mentioned my classmate, that he was arguably as good, or he was a better swimmer than me. I'm not going to lie. He was a great swimmer. He played water polo at a very high level. And his dad was a SEAL, but before that he was a SEAL in Vietnam, did his 2 tours as a SEAL, very early in Vietnam. Came back, went to flight school. He was flying F-4 Phantoms, went back to Vietnam and was flying Phantoms. He became the Commodore. And we went out to lunch a couple times. His son and I and another one of us went out and just talk about squared away, like statuesque, like perfect, like build the man SEAL guy, just like just big dude, just awesome guy. So fast forward, his son, I believe, quit the first week of actual buds, and some time had passed. You kind of get lost in the mix, because you're concerned about yourself a little bit. You just keep going on, and people come and go, But anyway, so I saw him at the little surf mart a week or so later, and just he was putting gas in his vehicle or whatever. And I said, hey, started a conversation, exchanged pleasantries and such, and hey, how you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just over here. He goes, he was a corpsman. So he's like, well, I'm going to go FMF corpsman, which is, more Medal of Honor winners have been Navy corpsmen attached to the Marine Corps than any other rate or MOS in the military. Right. So that's what he was going to do. He wasn't afraid. He just, whatever reason he did. So it was great to see him. We shook hands, right? We went about our day. After Hell Week now, so now fast forward another couple weeks, I'm through Hell Week. I see him at the same surf mart going in. And I'm like, hey, same thing, exchange pleasantries, so forth. How you doing? He's like, well, my dad still won't talk to me, And this, I don't want this to come across as a negative thing for the father, because I'm certainly that there's equal responsibility on both sides, right? Communication is a two-way street. So please don't mistake this as a negative light on the father, because it's not. It's both ways. And then it might change your opinion here in a bit, though. But so bear with me. So exchange pleasantries and such, and we move on, and I see him. I'm in second phase, and he's in a Marine Corps uniform, Marine Corps haircut, everything, and he's like, I'm about to deploy. Actually, I saw him at the cafeteria. It wasn't at the surf mart, and he's like, yeah, well, my mother is divorcing my father because he still won't talk to me. They stopped talking. And, I have not, certainly I have no idea what happened after that, but that's the extreme. Like I would never do that to my son necessarily. I would swallow my pride for sure. But again, you don't know the whole story. That's one of those things. It's like, wow, I can't believe that happened. Well, humans, we're pretty maniacal creatures sometimes. Our ego can get the best of us. So that's my story.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty tough. There have been guys that really take quitting or getting kicked out, not meeting the standard, or getting injured very seriously, too seriously, to where they get depressed. They go off the deep end, in some manner, wind up getting kicked out of the Navy, or even worse, there have been suicides, right? And that is, I guess, the main reason why I wanted to kind of talk about this one with you, Jeff, and with everybody else who's listening, is that you really have to remember, this is not the end of the world, right? If you don't make it through this, there are other opportunities for you to do within the military that are just as cool. And you may love it. And there's another opportunity for you to come back, and do this again. I think they should take more retreads into buds, just because I see every guy that was in my buds class that was there for the second time all made it, and they knew that they did not want to go back to the fleet doing what they were doing.
Yeah.
And
there's been a little bit of talk, maybe just you and I, or was maybe mentioned, is like, well, like how Army Special Forces used to be. You used to have to spend, or even the Marine Corps, you had to spend a couple years in the infantry units before you had an opportunity, because there's that really fantastic maturation phase that I think can happen, but it's just not how the pipeline works, and that's okay. And to piggyback what Stu is saying, folks, like, certainly my appreciation for the SEAL community is robust. It is. But having gone through it and having struggles in my life at times, I'll tell you, man, there is some unique positivity that goes along with being a SEAL, but it ain't worth taking your life.
No.
I can't express that with enough, but certainly you should take it hard and take it to heart and grow from it. But there are very few things in this world that are worth anything so catastrophic as killing yourself, if nothing at all. But especially if all that being aside, look for like the family and the kids and the children that you could have. Like there's nothing better than that. Like especially for you, the men, like the woman that you could marry someday. That's awesome. It's amazing. It's the most amazing thing that we've got, other than maybe, you know, depending on what your faith is. But and then the kids that follow, like yes, buds, it might be hard, and if you quit, that might be difficult, but life is a beautiful thing. Don't give up the opportunity. Don't let that be the opportunity that creates just fallout.
Yeah, and don't let that be the turn in your life for the negative.
Yep.
Either. You know, like I said, I've seen guys that just go off the deep end and never really excel in anything else in the rest of their life.
Right.
You know, the most successful they ever been was getting 2 buds, and it just falls off, you know, whereas, you know, I've seen guys on the backside of it do great things. You know, they decided to go JAG, right? And they became a lawyer. Another guy was a corpsman.
That was in consideration of mine when I got into the teams, because like, man, if I'm not going to do this for a career, that was actually on my eval.
Yeah.
It was OCS JAG. Like that was, I was like, oh, well, I don't know about that. But Stu's right on. Like, no matter what the outcome, and Stu and I kind of talked about this off camera, no matter what the outcome is, and this is not a glass half full statement, like you have to be fairly motivated and exceptional in its own right, just to even put the pants on and go for it. Like,
yes.
And let it, for those of you that do quit, that's the thing. That's what Stu is already saying is, if you quit, you'll know right away if you're like, oh man, I made a mistake. Then those people end up going back and they're like, okay, I got this sorted.
Right.
And they're going to make it through. And if they don't, they're going to go on and be admirals, be great fathers, be great businessmen, be great. This is just part of life.
Yeah.
Not everybody. And there's some people, here's the thing. I was talking to Mitch Aguirre about this last week. And because he's got a close friend that quit buds. And Mitch is like, the guy's like, man, I'm super happy. Like, and because this is where life took me. So understand that if you quit buds, you might be thankful that you did.
Yeah. You know, and man up about it too. You know, don't come up with some BS about it and live with that for the rest of your life. You know, just say, you know what? I tried it. It didn't work for me. I'm moving on. Right. And take that same drive that you had to go there and then put it in something else. You know, it may take a journey for you to find out what that is, but you know, you can find that, you know, and I mean, my life has changed 5 times in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
You know, I've had different paths that have taken me different directions, and, you know, and you still take that same energy and that same drive to be successful into all of them. I mean, and I'd like to think that, you know, even if I hadn't gone through buds, I would still have that same type of drive and same type of, you know, willing to work hard and, you know, find a passion and do all that. I mean, I don't think buds has anything to do with it. I just think,
you're right on. Absolutely.
Buds was in my way, you know, success, to what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Success in life is not determined upon completion of buds.
Absolutely.
The individual that wants to go to buds and maybe become a SEAL and achieve whatever that is, you're kind of already hardwired for that, because the vast majority of the people that go through buds already, you know, again, I think that's where sports and military life have such commonality, because there is a lot of heartbreak and failure and fun and all these great qualities of a sport. Those same qualities exist within going to buds in the military. So in everyone's own right, the folks that are going to buds, they're not the bottom one, and this is not a negative thing, but they're not the bottom 1% of intellectual or physical society, right? They really are. Folks are there. They're driven, and it may not be. They might not realize that. Oh, I'm not driven to be a SEAL when they get through buds, but then they get off and go, man, I really found passion in this world, and then they really can attack attack that with what they find out what their real purpose is.
Right. Yeah. You know what? Funny you mentioned sports. You know, I'll tell you my quit story that to this day has made me not want to quit ever again. And you can call it what you want. You know, when I was in high school, I played 3 sports. I played football, I wrestled, I played baseball. Did that for the first 2 years. However, my junior year, they said, "Hey, we're going to start up a powerlifting team." I'm like, "Oh, yes." So I can go into the gym for 2 hours a day like I was doing anyway, and go get a letter for that and not have to lose weight wrestling. So I didn't wrestle that year. Didn't even try out for it. Just didn't wrestle. But the baseball season, when that came around, I hadn't thrown baseball for a year, you know, and I tried to throw a baseball after a powerlifting season, and it was horrible, you know. So I started playing baseball and realized I sucked at it, and it was really tough, and I still loved working out. And so it was this yin and yang of which way do I go type of thing, and I chose lifting and not playing baseball. And I remember quitting because those were my buddies. I mean, those are my buddies I played baseball with since I was 6 years old, you know, and that was hard. You know, that was really hard. I caught a lot of shit for that. And, you know, I just remember I said, you know what, this is something I don't ever want to go through again. And I think to this day, and even when I went back for a high school reunion, I told my high school buddies that, and told my, you know, high school coach. You know, I felt like I let him down. I really apologize, but I tell you, I never wanted to quit again after doing it. So you got that, you know, it gave me that, you know. So even then, you can take a quitting situation and make it change your life for the positive, you know, not the negative.
Yeah, that something similar to that regard. There's one thing I quit in my life. Well, I
quit piano lessons.
Yeah, saxophone. I wasn't meant to be in a jazz band. So I quit 6th grade track. I did not get along with the coach. Just big, loud guy. And it was he was the first coach I ever encountered that was just one of those coaches that he coaches by yelling everything. And I was like, screw this, man. But there was a couple of us. So there was like a mutiny, man. Like he was just yelling at us one day before practice. He's like, if you don't like to be here, get up and leave. And I was like, okay. And so I just got up and left. And I got home and my dad was like, you did what? Like, we just bought you track shoes. And I was like, guy was a dick, you know? And my dad's like, he just kind of shook his head. But what I realized after that, it wasn't like once you start something, finishing it. It wasn't that. It was more to the terms of, because all the coaches I had at that point, from baseball to wrestling, have been hard on you, but they've been more of a mentor.
Right.
And I just kind of realized, like, some coaches are just going to be assholes. And then, like, my college baseball coach, not my junior college, my upper college baseball coach, was just was the worst coach I've ever encountered in any sport in every single way. And it bugged me.
Yeah.
But you just got to get through it. That's part of sport. And then when you get to buds, you better have some real thick skin.
Yeah.
But it's part of the process. It's not like they're not being mean to you to be mean to you. That it's part of buds. It's like, as much as the water is a part of swimming, the buds instructors being so overly dominant, it's just the nature of what it is.
Yeah. And, you know, be prepared for negative feedback. And I think that's one reason why sports is such a good thing to do prior to any of this, just because you know, you find negative feedback in a play that you screwed up, or a technique that you're not getting right. You know, all of these things are fine tuning you to be better. And, you know, you have to be able to take negative feedback and process it, so where it doesn't get you down, it actually makes you perform better.
Right.
So, I mean, I think you know, I've seen guys quit because of the negative feedback at buds. You know, you get told you're the worst student ever, right? And
you will hear that, yes.
You will hear that. You know, you suck as a student, and this is the worst swim performance I've ever seen, and, you know, whatever. You can't even do the O course in under 8 minutes. You know.
I remember something that was said to me, not in buds, but in selection, was and I was, you know, 200 and some odd pounds going through, and I certainly wasn't the fastest runner. I never have been, especially you get to the point where those selection courses, there's some guys that are straight gazelles. And I remember the warrant officer, and I was just still from friends with him today because he was actually the one that got through. He goes, Nichols, he's like, he goes, when it comes to running, man, he goes, you got a Ferrari body, but you got a Volkswagen engine. And I was like, I said, so you're saying I'm really reliable? That's what I said to him. It was like because we were doing like the 14-mile, like, or whatever run at Shaw's. And I was just like, I get it, man. I'm like, but that's what I mean. You know, you get to a point where there's a level of interaction at Buds that is actually, that's what they're really testing you at some point. I could tell you this and it's not going to give you an advantage, but you're going to encounter stuff every single day where they're just trying to get under your skin to see what your sense of humor is like. You know, are you going to hang your head? Are you going to be like, okay, I see what's going. It's just this really beautiful Shakespearean play that you're part of. You can't explain it, but when you live it and you get there, it's just like, oh, these are my people. Like these people are all these guys are all my level of crazy. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Especially, you know, when they do something and you laugh and they see you snicker, they see you get it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, they see you get whatever harshness they're saying, but it was funny. You know, you just laugh. You know, it doesn't matter that you're getting hammered.
I'm gonna give you the G-rated version of this story. So this is what I mean. This is a real G-rated version. So historically, the fastest swimmer up to my point at Buds was a black guy, and I'm not going to say his name. He's one of the smartest guys. He was the straight jokester. He works for an NBA team now. Awesome dude. And one of the other Buds instructors, we were doing life saving where, you know, you jump in the pool and you have 5 people to save, but he was my number 5. And then instead of me jumping in the pool, they made me get up on the tower, and there's a part in the tower you can kind of hide. The instructors can hide, and he's like, Nichols, say this. And I was like, oh man. So I'm standing on this tower, on the 15-foot tower, and the instructor, he's my number 5 guy, and everyone else is doing their thing. And it's just me, the entire class, and all the instructors are watching me. And I was like, he goes, Nichols, tell him that he's your N-word. And he goes, insane. I go, oh, no. And he goes, no. He goes, no, say that. Go. He goes, say, I own you effing N-word. And I was like, and he goes, yell. If you don't yell it, you're done, man. And I was like, at the top of my lungs, I was like, I own you effing, right? And he goes, no. He goes, but your grandparents may have owned mine. He goes, now get your ass in. And I was like, oh, man. He goes, I jumped in, swam over to him. He's kind of lumpy. I was like, this is supposed to be the real combative swimmer.
Right. And
I am like 2 feet from the edge. And he looks at me and he got rigid and he goes, you ready for this? And I was like, oh shit. And I tried, and he swam down, he grabbed my legs and he triangle choked me out underwater.
Oh man.
I came to on the pool deck and they're pumping my stomach and the water's coming out. That's all and he comes to and he looks over and he looks at me, he goes, pass. And he walked off. That was it. That was my drown proofing experience. But ever since then, because he came to Team 5 with me, I got to Team 5. He proceeded after his tour. Man, he's one of the smartest people I had ever, still to this day. He's brilliant. And so you got it, man. You're a part of the play, whether you like it or not. You're either going to be there to the end or you don't. But it's those sort of stories, they happen every single class and they happen almost every day. So
that's a good one.
It's pretty funny.
I like that one.
That's probably the first time in my entire life I've used that word too.
No kidding.
So,
man. So anyway, we wanted to do this one mainly just because, you know, we hear about, you know, when guys don't make it and they get sent somewhere into the fleet. Some guys really love it. Like we've had a couple of corpsmen, like your friend, you know, that go on to be SARC corpsman or, you know, which is a recon corpsman or MARSOC. You know, so they get to go into a special ops level, you know, training program again, or they come back. You know, I've seen several of them come back. Some of them I've seen guys go FMF as a corpsman and then come back as a
Yep.
as a SEAL corpsman. So,
Yep.
I mean, there's many.
The military is a
great
wonderful, wonderful thing. And the crazy thing is there are so many jobs available to you that aren't entry level jobs. Like they're not part of an initial MOS or rate. But once you get in, you're like, man, there's a lot of options. And a lot of times it's just about maturing. And quitting buds is certainly not the end of the day. It's not the end of your life, and it's certainly not the end of a career. And sometimes it's just a necessary road bump.
Yeah. So it happens. It's life. Life throws it at you. You can either try it again or move on.
Yeah.
I think that's the best piece of advice I have is, if you realize when you got out that you made a mistake and now you spend the next year and a half or whatever doing a job that you don't want to do, that'd be a good little motivator for you to not want to go back to that. Be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
And then come back around, do it again. Or you find a new job that you love even more and you just keep on going and you make admiral.
There you go. Life could be a whole lot worse for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Absolutely. All right, Jeff, thanks for doing this one with me.
Awesome. We'll talk again soon. Actually, I'll see you in a couple days.
Yeah, that's right. TSAC. Anybody's still considering on the fence next week, Jeff and I, and what?
Who's who in the zoo?
Other speakers are going to be at the Tactical Strength and Conditioning Conference
in Norfolk, Virginia.
Yep.
The
and
second to the
phenomenal.
5th.
I mean, I was looking at the list of speakers, and I think you and I speak together
Wednesday at 1 or something.
Yeah, Wednesday 2:00.
Yeah.
And but yeah, there's some good stuff there.
Be awesome.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome.
We'll see you.